Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody for the evening Bhagavad Gita session, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. We'll begin our session with the praise to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandrodaya ki jai. Shri Shri Ridai Gauranga ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. So welcome again. We have been reading the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Purushottama Yoga, or the Yoga of the Supreme Person. We have discussed verse number 1 and 2 in our previous sessions. So this chapter is specifically giving us the understanding of how to get detached from material activities and how to increase our attachment to the devotional service of Lord Krishna. Because the root cause of our existence in the material world is our attachment to this material world in different ways. And how the modes are influencing to further make us grounded in this material world, we have discussed in chapter 14. Lord Krishna begins this chapter by comparing this material world to a huge banyan tree. Why banyan tree is given comparison is that material world is so entangling that it is a very complicated situation for us. If you remember, in the beginning of second chapter, Arjuna expresses about his situation as very perplexing. Situation wherein he was feeling helpless, and he has got so much deep-rooted attachments to his family members, his friends, his own kinsmen, that he finally surrendered to Krishna for a proper direction from Lord Krishna about how to come out of the deep-rooted affections. In one of the purports, in those beginning verses of second chapter, Srila Prabhupada makes a comment that this is like a skin disease, right? Attachment to family, society, country. This is sort of a skin disease, because as spirit souls, we have nothing to do with all these things. Of course, they are all incidental. They have been given as a situational aspect for us. We are identifying with different identities, but we need to function with those identities only to the extent that we see them as different situations or circumstances, not that we become too attached to them. That is the whole message of Bhagavad Gita. Right? So we have to understand that this material world is a world of attachment of the living entity, by which the living entities are taking different types of bodies. Why they are taking different bodies? Because we have been engaging in different fruitive activities. Fruitive activity means by one activity I desire some result, and with that result I again desire something else. Whether it is very much entangling, and there is no end to this. One activity leading to another to another. Like this, we are entangling ourselves in the action, reactions, vicious cycle. So similarly, we see in this material world, the tree of the banyan, this entanglement of this material world compared to banyan tree similarly has no end. And for one who is attached to this banyan tree or this tree of this material world, entangling material world, there's hardly any possibility of liberation. So Lord Krishna begins this chapter with verse number 1, giving this wonderful information that we have to understand that we are entangled like this in the material world. And this material world or material nature, which is making this, which is manifesting this material world, we have understood in the previous chapter, or 13th chapter rather, that it is eternal. Prakriti is Krishna's one of the energies. It is eternal. And eternally, we are getting conditioned like this. Meaning, when this entanglement started, how it started, we cannot trace back. That is the level of our conditioning now. So, Lord Krishna wants to enlighten us, make us understand that actually the tree of this material world, entangling material world, is actually a reflection of the original tree of the spiritual world. Which means this tree actually has no real existence. It is a reflection, as Prabhupada says, it is a perverted reflection of what is existing in its original true nature in the spiritual world. The spiritual world has existence in its true identities, in its real variegatedness, in its real existence. The example was given of a tree standing on the bank of the reservoir of water. Original tree which is standing on the bank is having its true existence. The reflection of the tree is seen upside down, and it is temporary and illusory because just because the original tree is there, that's the reason reflection is there. Right? A reflection is always temporary. Similarly, this material existence is also temporary. Its existence depends on the existence of the spiritual world, which means the origin of this reflection, which is spiritual world, that is eternal, that is permanent. This wonderful example is given in this first verse of Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, to make us understand that the reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire. Desire, just as the tree's reflection is situated on the water, likewise, our desire to not to serve Krishna, to have independent existence, is what has made us to be situated in this material existence. So Srila Prabhupada recommends that if you want to come out of this material existence, you must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. This is what we are going to do in this chapter, 15th chapter. Then we can cut off the relationship, or rather we can become detached from this material world and become attached to Lord Krishna's service. So this is what we have understood in the previous two verses, that this material world is a perverted reflection. Spiritual world must have its true existence. It has its true existence. But the material world is just a perverted reflection. Okay? So like this, further description was given of the tree, how the branches go up and down, and we have the material modes nourishing these different branches and roots of this entanglement tree, and how we are all completely now traveling or going around in this material existence, up and down in the higher planets and lower planets. Okay, so we'll move forward. I request the host to take out the verse and translation once I start with the explanation. The font is very small. Can you increase the font, please? Yes. So we'll read verse 3 and 4. Na rupamasyeha tathopalabhyate nanto na chadirna cha sampratishtha ashvatthaменam suvirudha moolam asanga shastrena dridhena chitva tatah padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyah tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yata pravrittihi prasuta purani. Translation. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment. So doing, one must seek that place from which, having once gone, one never returns. And there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything has begun and in whom everything is abiding since time immemorial. Yeah, you can take out the Bhagavad Gita's translation and verse. You can resume the video, spotlight video. Resume the video, please. Thank you. Yeah, so now Krishna is further giving us understanding about this tree and also is giving us a solution how to come out of this entanglement of this banyan tree. Again, to remind you, this material world is compared to the entanglement of this material world, rather, is compared to a banyan tree. And this banyan tree is so extensive, expansive, and so entangling, so complicated, so perplexing, that this material existence is compared to a banyan tree. So, here further, Krishna is telling, Na rupa masyeha tathopa labhyate, nanto nachadi nacha sampatishtha. The real form of this tree, we cannot perceive in this material world, which means where from a person has begun his existence in the material world, we cannot trace back. Similarly, where is what is going to happen to this person towards the end, we cannot predict. This is what our situation right now is. How our material existence has begun. What were we in our previous lives, or previous to that, like this many life we have taken, we cannot trace back. Or what is going to happen to me after this particular lifespan, we don't know, right? So like this, everybody's life is going on in such a complicated manner with no clue of how it began, what is going to happen next. Lord Krishna is telling in a very wonderful way, Na rupa masyeha tathopa labhyate nanto na chadi nacha sampratishto. But Krishna is telling, nevertheless, even though we cannot really understand the actual form of this banyan tree, of this material world, because what we understand in the previous explanations of verse 1 and 2 is that the roots are upward, where Brahmaloka is situated, and the branches are down. Right? We cannot see how far the tree has extended itself, how far it is going down, the expanse of the material world nobody has seen. Even Earth planet, there are so many places which is unexplored. What to speak of other planets? When you speak of so many innumerable stars and planets in the sky, we can just see them. That's all from distance. We really don't know what is happening there. The scientists are guessing there's no life there. The planets are all only on Earth. We have life. So many theories the scientists are putting forward. But from the text of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, we understand that living entities are everywhere on every planet. Not only on earthly planet, but also on other innumerable planets. Just we get a hint in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, about Lord Krishna speaking to Sun God. Krishna himself says that I spoke the science of the yoga, of the science of relationship with the Supreme, first time to Sun God. So which means sun planet is having inhabitants, living entities, more intellectual than living entities on earth. Because Krishna has chosen Sun God to speak, Sun God to be delivered this message of Bhagavad Gita in the very beginning of this millennium. So like this, we get many wonderful indications in the Bhagavad Gita telling that there are living entities everywhere. There's one more verse in the 9th chapter, if you can remember. Yanti deva vrita devan, pitrun yanti pitrvritaha, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti madhyajinopima. Right? If you are worshipping devatas, you'll be going to the planets of the devatas. There are 33 crore devatas, and all these devatas have different planets, higher planets known as Svargaloka. And there are planets for Pitris, the forefathers, who have not yet got liberated. Pitraloka is there. And there is a planet for ghosts and spirits. And Krishna says, there is my planet, supreme planet called Golok Vrindavan. If you are devoted to me, you will come back to me. So like this, we get a lot of wonderful information in Bhagavad Gita. The understanding that this world is not everything. There are higher planetary systems. There are other worlds which are existing, full of living entities. In the 2nd chapter, Krishna mentions that living entities are all pervading, which means they are everywhere in the creation. That is the point. So, this being the situation in the material world, no one can see how far this material world is expanding or where from this material world has begun. Right? Just like if you go on analyzing that I am the son or daughter of my parents. My parents, their parents are so and so. Like this, you can go on tracing. Maybe you can maximum trace 5, 6 generations. But actually, from the Vedic version or the version of Bhagavad Gita, we can understand that this material world, the secondary creation for that matter, because the primary creation, the ingredients for the creation was all provided by Lord in his expansion of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. As soon as the universe was created, Lord entered as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Right? We have understood this in the 7th chapter. So, we'll come to the understanding that Brahma is that secondary creator from whom the further creation began. Finally, we can reach out that, oh, Brahma has come from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, from his navel, the lotus has sprouted up, and Garbhodakashaya Vishnu is originating from Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu has come from one more expansion of Krishna. Like this, trace out the whole thing to Krishna. As Krishna says in 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavaha matta sarvam pravartate. Everything is emanating from me. I am the cause of everything. I am the cause of all causes, Krishna mentions. So, our final research work should culminate in understanding that Krishna is the source of everything, basically. Right? So, this material world is entangled, is very much bewildering and very much confusing for all of us. What is what? Nobody is able to properly comprehend. But consulting the books of wisdom, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, we come to a proper understanding that this material world has a particular way of functioning. Its origin is like this. It has begun with a particular purpose. Krishna has created the material world with the purpose of seeing that we, living entities, get a chance to understand that we have rebelled against Krishna's service, and we have to again revive the relationship and service of Krishna and go back to spiritual world. That's the reason Krishna has created this material world. He has given an opportunity for us in this material world. So we have to search out the origin of this tree. That's what Krishna wants to tell us. And origin of this tree, of this material world, is Krishna, Supreme Personality of God. As Krishna says in 10th chapter. Right? Aham sarvasya prabhaha. So this can be understood that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead only by association with persons who are in knowledge of Krishna. That is the whole point. Right? So, by this understanding that Krishna is the source of everything, we are supposed to become devoted to Krishna. We have to become detached from this material world, become attached to Krishna. All this knowledge gradually comes when you associate with persons who are in knowledge of Krishna. So persons who are in knowledge of Krishna means they are pure devotees or bona fide spiritual masters. By this we can gradually cut off the connection with this material world and become situated in our original situation, original condition. So Krishna is further mentioning in this verse, yes, of course, the origin of this material world, how things are all situated, how complex this world is, not easy to trace. But definitely, with the weapon of detachment, by the weapon of detachment, as Krishna mentions here, asanga shastrena dridhena chitva. With determination, we can cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment. Then we can, this weapon of detachment is again, as we discussed now, associating with persons who are in knowledge of all these aspects of reality of the world, of all this of how Krishna has created this material world, pure devotees or persons who are practicing devotion. They will know everything. As Krishna says, they are santaha, they are mahatmas. They will have this knowledge. Okay, so associating with them, when you associate with them, you will also develop detachment from this material world, right? And then with determination, which means we have to utilize our willpower, strong sankalpa shakti, that yes, I want to come out of this material world. Then we can cut down the root of this material world. Otherwise, our existence in the material world will go on. Attachments will go on. When you associate with persons who have attachment to the material world, our existence will go on. So we have to associate with persons who have become detached from this material world. And who are the persons who have become detached from the material world? Devotees of Krishna. Persons who are practicing bhakti, they have become detached because they have got attachment to Krishna. That's the point. Okay. So here, further Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport very nicely, because devotees are seeking for a destination where from they will not again come back to this material world. Whereas every one of us right now in the material world, we don't know what is going to happen to us after we leave this body. But definitely, we'll be again coming back in a different species of life, taking a different body. This is what we have understood in the previous chapters. So Krishna is telling, Tatap padam tad varimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyaha. So we should seek. How we can seek this? When you are on the path of detachment. Asanga shastrena dridhena chitva. Means you become disassociated from this material world and become attached to the instructions of the devotees of Krishna and Lord Krishna as given in the Bhagavad Gita. Then what happens? You will seek for that destination. From having once gone, you will not come back again. Krishna also confirms this in the 4th chapter, if you can remember this verse. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Krishna very clearly says, one who has given up his body at the time of death by perfecting his life, by knowing the facts about Krishna's birth, activities, his instructions, his philosophy, tattvataha, in fact, then after giving up this body, Krishna says he will not again come back to this material world. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. He will come to my planet, my spiritual abode, Krishna says. So this is the destination. So this is what Krishna is instructing us here, that when you are associating with persons who are practicing devotion, then you will develop detachment from this material world, which is the basic principle of devotional service. I had mentioned in the previous session that Bhakti Yoga basically means Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti means that you develop detachment from this material world and develop attachment to Lord Krishna. That is called Bhakti. Not that I maintain my attachment in the material world and I want to do Bhakti. That Bhakti is not a pure Bhakti. Krishna is expecting pure Bhakti from us. Unalloyed devotion. Unalloyed devotion means there is no other tinge of any trace of any other desires and attachments, aspirations of enjoying the material world. Rather, my only desire and aspiration is how I can please Krishna, how I can satisfy Krishna. That is the only aspiration. That is called pure devotional service. So further, when you have made your destination to a place where again you will not come back from that place, that is spiritual world. Because anywhere in the material world, even Brahmaloka, you are gone, you have to come back again. This is what Krishna confirmed in the 8th chapter. A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. Now starting from Brahma Loka down to the Patala Loka and the material world, all are places of repeated birth and death. So anywhere you go in the material world, you have to come back again, taking one more life form. One more body you have to take. One more species of life you have to enter into. This is the situation in the material world. Whereas you go to the spiritual world, how you can go to the spiritual world? By following the path of people who have become detached from the material world by practice of devotion, and they are doing it by surrendering to Krishna. And Krishna is the origin of everything. He is the root cause of everything. This is what this verse is telling. Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yada pravritti prasata purani. Cha adyam. Krishna is Adi, means he is the root of everything. He is the origin of everything. From where everything has begun. And whom everything is residing since eternally or since time immemorial. This is the situation of Krishna. So we have to seek out that situation, that position, that place from having once gone, you will now return. And that place is the abode of Lord Krishna, where all the great souls, Mahatmas, are completely absorbed in devotion of that personality, Lord Krishna. We have to seek their association and develop detachment. So very nicely, further, in the purport it is mentioned that the word asanga shastrena, this word Krishna uses here. Asanga shastrena means, asanga means, sanga means attachment. Asanga means detachment. Shastrena means the weapon of detachment. Because right now our tendency of being attached to the material world, attachment to material world means our tendency to lord over material world, or want to control things in the material world, or want to enjoy senses in the material world, or sense gratification tendency is going very strong. This has been the nature of our existence since many, many lifetimes. We have been attached to the material world in a way that we are completely conducting ourselves as though we are controlling things, we are manipulating things, we are further and further making things possible in the material world. That's what everybody thinks and feels. Because of me, this family is running. Because of me, this company is running. Because of me, this whole establishment is functioning. If I am not there, things will not function. This way, a type of a mentality has come up in our thinking and understanding. So, the recommendation here, what Krishna is giving us, is that, but with determination, one must cut down this tree. Which tree? A tree of entanglement which we have developed. Tree of attachment for everything which we have developed. Right? So one must learn detachment by discussion of spiritual science. based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. A philosophical approach, a discussion of this particular aspect of spiritual knowledge about our existence, about who we are, why, what is the purpose of this whole creation, and how to come out of this whole existence will all help us to come out of this entanglement of the material world. This is exactly what Krishna is trying to tell us here. So when we have a thorough discussion, just like we are having a discussion now of Bhagavad Gita's various different subject matters which Krishna is giving us as instructions. So this discussion in the association of devotees, what will happen? This will gradually make us understand, oh, this is what it is. I am actually not this body, I am spirit soul. As spirit soul, I am connected to Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna. I have a connection, intimate connection with Krishna. And the purpose of my existence in the material world is not simply to go on with my material life. I have to prepare myself to go back to spiritual world. All this enlightenment will come upon. Right? When you are in association with devotees discussing about the topics of spiritual topics, about our own life and about the existence, about Lord Krishna, there is a knowledge developing, spiritual knowledge developing. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Asha Vairagyam Jnanam Ched Ahaitukam. Bhagavatam says very nicely, when we have developed a little inclination towards bhakti, towards Vasudeva. Vasudeve Bhagavati. So when you have developed devotion towards Vasudeva, Bhagavan Vasudeva, slowly, then this next, the concomitant factors or the effect of this is you will develop detachment and knowledge. So this is exactly what we are telling you. When you are chanting Hare Krishna, you just have to decide that, yes, let me take up this chanting of Hare Krishna. And this has to be done with determination, sankalpa. Right? This is very important. Dridena chitva. Dridata means determination to take up. Every day I will chant Hare Krishna. Right? We read in the previous chapter, 14th verse, 26th, 14th chapter, 26th verse. Krishna very clearly says, Mam chayo abhyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. Krishna's recommendation was unfailing determination in execution of devotional service. Why? Because this unfailing determination means every day sincerely, meticulously following the instructions of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. This will develop automatically proper spiritual understanding and detachment from the material world. These are the effects of performing bhakti. When you're doing Hare Krishna chanting every day, or when you're reading Bhagavad Gita every day and taking Krishna Prasadam every day, worshiping Krishna every day, this will naturally develop within you some level of spiritual understanding and detachment from the material world. Right? So then the result will be that I want to surrender to Krishna more and more. I want to understand. Surrender means I want to know about Krishna more and more. I want to become detached from the material world more and more. These aspects will develop within us as a natural symptom. That is the point. So then when you have developed this attitude of surrender to Krishna, then naturally your inclination will be, I don't want to be in the material world. I want to go back to spiritual world. Material world, enough. I have seen, because material world is what? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Repeated birth, repeated death is going on. There is no end for this going. It's eternally going on, a cycle of birth and death. Right? So this understanding, this spiritual knowledge will dawn upon us, and gradually we will become more and more inclined towards performing devotion. That way we progress in our path of bhakti. So this aspect of surrender to Krishna means accepting things which are favorable for bhakti, rejecting things which are unfavorable to bhakti, and understanding that Krishna is the origin of everything. He is maintaining me, he is protecting me. So developing this attitude of complete surrender is possible with a specific process. Right? Just like, just now we're discussing, we have to have association of devotees and we should develop devotion to Krishna. Then all these things will happen. Yes, it will happen. But from your side, there is a lot of homework which you have to do. A lot of work from individual side has to happen. He has to take up the process of bhakti with determination. He has to take up the whole process of devotion with so much of great endeavor that I want to come out. This particular strong understanding should be there in his whole process of performance of bhakti. That's the point. So in verse 3 and 4, Krishna is very clearly telling, no doubt, this entangling banyan tree is very much confusing, perplexing to all of us. Nevertheless, if we can develop detachment from this entangling banyan tree by associating with persons who are already detached, which is saintly persons or sadhus or devotees who are practicing bhakti, then by their association, you'll come to understand what is your situation, who is Krishna, and what is my relationship with Krishna. All this knowledge will be revealed to you. And gradually, you will make your destination as Krishna's abode, as the ultimate destination. And this whole process will begin when you have begun the process of surrender. Right? The surrender is what is required from the living entity. Surrender right now, we have surrendered ourselves to this material world. So Krishna wants us to surrender to him. That is the whole instruction of Bhagavad Gita. 18th chapter towards the end, Krishna mentions, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Right? When we surrender to Krishna, Krishna says, I will take care of you and I will relieve you from all sinful activities. So, we are right now, without desire to enjoy the material world, we have surrendered our good sense, we have surrendered our intelligence, everything to the way that this material world is everything for me and this attachment is everything for me. Our desires to enjoy the material world is so much that we have surrendered our free will, independence to serving different aspects of Maya. So we have to change this surrender to Krishna. That is the whole discussion which we are doing right now. Okay, so Krishna has explained the material world as entanglement. How we find in a banyan tree. Krishna is recommending that we have to cut down this attachment and entanglement of this banyan tree by the weapon of knowledge, asanga shastrena dhrudena chitra. And this weapon of knowledge will come to us, or understanding will come to us when we associate with persons who are already having this knowledge of this material world, knowledge of how Krishna is the Lord of everything, how to conduct ourselves in the material world. This is what the saintly persons are connecting themselves with. Right? So we'll further see in text number 5. Can you display the text, please? Next verse, 5th verse. Yeah. Verse number 5. Yes, thank you. So it's a very nice verse. Let us read this and try to understand this. Nirmana moha ajita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandvai vimukta sukha dukkha samgnai gacchantya mudha padam avyayam tat. Translation. One who is free from illusion, false prestige and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust and is freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains to that eternal kingdom. Yes, thank you. You can resume the video. So we can very clearly see in this verse, Krishna is giving us the process of surrender. We have been discussing now that we are entangled in the material world. So, such a complicated way. Krishna is giving the example of banyan tree, how entangling it is, how encumbering it is. The only way to come out of this entangling material world is to surrender to Krishna. Krishna has been recommending this in the previous many chapters. Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. In 7th chapter, Krishna mentions very clearly, surrendering to me will relieve you from the influence of Maya or entanglement of Maya, Krishna says. So, what is the surrendering process? How to take up the surrendering process? Krishna explains very nicely in this particular verse. It's a very nice verse, very wonderful verse. Krishna is describing the process of surrender in 5 steps. Okay, so let us understand them in a systematic manner. The first thing Krishna mentions is about Nirmana Moha. Nirmana Moha means Krishna is telling that the first qualification one has to acquire is that he should not be deluded by pride. Right? Pride. Right now, what is happening, our present situation in the material world is that pride means feeling oneself too much great, or I'm very important. Self-importance. Or the tendency that I am the lord of whatever I survey. I am thinking that I am the master of this material world. Right? So the puffed up nature is there in everybody because of possession of wealth, education, or some opulence, or whatever a person is possessing. He thinks I'm very great, I'm very important. Right? This is a sense of a self-importance which everybody in the material world is having. He possesses some wealth or some opulence or some education or some skill. He starts feeling himself very great. This is called pride. Okay. So Krishna says the first qualification of surrendering is that we should be free from pride, or we should not be deluded by pride. Deluded means because of having some certain possessions, you feel yourself so great, so important, that you don't regard what is the real situation. You don't understand what is the real reality of things. So such a person, it is not easy for him to surrender to Krishna. This is what the whole world is right now. So only by cultivation of proper understanding, if you start thinking that I am everything in the material world, it is your foolishness. Just like you have heard that story of Dr. Frog. Right? Srila Prabhupada tells the story in a very humorous way. There was one frog in a well of 3 feet by 4 feet. It was thinking that this well is everything. One fine day, one frog from an ocean, which is living on the beach, it fell into this well accidentally. And frog, they're talking. So this this frog in the well started asking, "Who are you?" "Oh, I am a frog who lives near the ocean, or on the beach of the ocean." "Ocean? What is this ocean? I never heard of this ocean." This frog in the well started asking. "Ocean, you don't know? Huge body of water, vast body of water." So this frog in the well started calculating how big it will be. Maybe it is this size, this well size, or maybe a little bigger than this well. Oh, the ocean frog started, not at all, no comparison. This well is nothing. This is many times huge. So this well frog started becoming a little more inquisitive and wanting to know what is this ocean? Maybe 2 times, 3 times of this well, because it has never seen ocean. So this is how finally it is becoming so puffed up. Prabhupada explains how this well frog, these frogs have the nature of bulging their body, filling the air in their belly and then becoming big. So it started expanding its belly and showing this big, and it became so much bulged with the air inside. Finally, it broke apart. This is the problem with people who are puffed up. They think I am so great, there's nothing beyond me. I am everything. This is what they generally feel and think. Whereas we have to understand this world is so huge. It is unlimited. Lord's creation is unlimited. Everything is available in unlimited proportion. We cannot put our limited understanding and brains in all these things. Right? What we know about the material world is very insignificant. Sir Isaac Newton says, even though he was such a great scientist, look at his humility. Humility is the opposite of pride. He said, now what I have understood about the material world is only few grains of sand on the vast beach, on the shore of the ocean. A few grains of sand, what is it in comparison to the vast sand which is on the beach? So likewise, even great people, see, the humility is the main symptom of a person who is advanced in knowledge, who is prideless, is humble. He knows his situation. He knows what is he. This is one of the aspects of surrender, becoming prideless. Okay. So when a person cultivates proper knowledge, real knowledge of what is this material world, what is position of Krishna, what is he, all these things will gradually give him the understanding that I am very insignificant. I am not all in all. There is Lord Krishna, there is Lord's creation, there is so many wonderful aspects going on in the material world. I am just a very insignificant, minuscule role I have in this whole material world. Right? If you start thinking, oh, I am controlling everything, I am doing everything, that is your foolishness. This attitude is a very wrong attitude. This is what Krishna says. Nirmana. Mana means respect. Nirmana means without respect, or pride, without pride. Or we should not be deluded, because this pride makes us completely puts us in a condition wherein we think, I am great, I am very, I am super, nobody is above me. Right? Like this, people will develop a situation of pride, making them completely think that I am everything, I am lot of, and they don't want to surrender to Krishna. They think others should surrender to them. Right? So like this, he is always expecting honor from people in the material world. Such people, they cannot surrender to Krishna. Right? If you remember 13th chapter, what is the first item of knowledge? Amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshanti rajavam. Amanitvam means humility. See, amanitvam, same thing. Nirmana, pridelessness, humility is important. And second point Krishna mentions is that we should become free from illusion. What is illusion? This pride. This pride puts you in a platform of illusion. Illusion means what is not actually fact. I'm discussing on the second point of surrender, process of surrender. The first process is become free from pride. Next step Krishna mentions is become free from moha, illusion. Illusion means that which is not fact. Although we come here in the material world, our stay is very brief in the material world, and we give up this body. Our whole life is like the example is given, like the bubbles in the ocean waves. They just appear for some time, they disappear again. That is our life. And even then, we are so much busy in doing so many things, and we place ourselves in such a situation as though we are thinking, oh, I am doing such a great thing. Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Tala Mala. It's a nice Vaishnava song sung by one of our acharyas, Govindas Acharya. He says, Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Tala Mala. Means our life is like on a lotus leaf. Kamala Dala Jala means the lotus, a petal, a small drop of water goes there. It is always tottering. It's not stable. Our life is like that. But even then, we carry a foolish notion that, oh, I can do everything, I can change the world, I can do that, I can do this. And this is what is complicating our whole situation. We have such a situation wherein we think, oh, I can control the world. Now see the situation, the pandemic situation. The virus is controlling us. We were thinking we are controlling the whole material world, but right now we are all controlled by one virus. All of us are locked down. All of us are restricted in our movement, restricted in our actions, restricted in our various activities, which we are otherwise thinking we can freely do. That is the situation right now. Right? So, very nicely Prabhupada says, people are considering that the land, this earth belongs to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are proprietors. Like this. So, like this illusion is such that we think this land is mine, this property is mine, this whole establishment is mine, I am the boss. This is all called illusion. Illusion means what is not a fact. It's all wrongly you're thinking I am so. Just like in the dream, you dream so many things, illusory things. Like that, the material world also. We think this is mine, all these things. But it's only going to last with you for some time. Again, the situation will change. Things keep changing. Right? False impressions, false notions, people go on thinking that I am this, I am that. And the world is going on like this. Right? So Krishna says that this is this illusion. From this illusion you have to come out. So point number 1, Krishna says, come out of the pride, become free from pride, become prideless, or rather become humble. Secondly, Krishna says, become free from illusion. And thirdly, Krishna mentions, become free from Jitasanga dosha. Yes, you become free from such associations, such family, society, and such affections and associations which is causing you completely entangling in the material world. Come out of these associations. Yes, these associations, right now you are situated now, it is incidental, it is circumstantial, but not that is everything. From this, just I have to go on in this material world. As long as I have to go on, I have to be here. Not that I have to become attached to them. So much attached that I forget my real identity, my real duty. That is the point. Because these false associations, or Prabhupada says fake associations, is what is making one completely, binding. It is entangling us. So from this false association, Jitasanga dosha, our attachment towards Krishna should be there. Material world, minimum as a duty, what is required we have to do. So point number 1, pridelessness, humility. Point number 2, come out of illusion. Point 3, come out of this false associations. Family, society, country, etc., etc. So many associations, so many sangha. Jitasanga dosha. Sangha again means association. We have to win over the false association. Dosha means all the faulty associations we are having. In the 4th point, Krishna says, Adhyatma Nitya, Adhyatma Gyan cultivate karna hai humko. Right? We need to develop spiritual knowledge. That's the reason we are telling you, read Bhagavad Gita every day, chant Hare Krishna every day. So this knowledge, every day we have to understand. What is my situation? What is this material world? What is spiritual world? Because all these years we have only been understanding that I am this body requirement is everything like this. This is the understanding we are going through. We are only knowing what is material knowledge all these years. So cultivating spiritual knowledge every day is important. Again stressing 14th chapter, 26th verse, Krishna's statement, Mam chayo abhyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. Unfailing determination to execute bhakti every day without fail. This will keep you above the modes. Right? So cultivation of spiritual knowledge will keep you above the 3 modes of nature and give you the proper understanding of what is my actual situation. Who am I? What am I doing here? What is my actual situation? All this understanding will come upon you. Right? This is the important aspect. Krishna says, Adhyatma Nitya. Nitya, you see, the word Nitya means every day, continuously, without breakage. That is what it means. Nitya means one has to cultivate the spiritual knowledge of what is his own, what is actually not his own. And 5th point Krishna mentions is that when you do this, Adhyatma Nitya Vinivritta Kama, then automatically you'll become free from all the different attachments you have in the material world. You develop a sense of detachment from the material world, and you will become free from Dvande Mukta. Right now, we are caught up in the dualities of good, bad, beautiful, ugly, happy, unhappy, like this. Like this, so many dualities we are situated right now. Becoming situated in the spiritual understanding or becoming detached from material world, one thing we understood in the 14th chapter is what? We have to come out of these dualities. Free from the dualities. Whatever situation it is all part of the material world. This is what Krishna mentions in the 2nd chapter also. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada. The appearance and disappearance of happiness, distress, heat, cold, everything is all incidental and it is all circumstantial. We need to tolerate them. As a spiritualist, we have to tolerate them. And toleration means you are detached from all these things. You have become free from all these dualities. When they remuktair, then you are free from this pleasure, pain, happiness, distress, and everything. You become situated in transcendental platform. This transcendental platform, you can surrender to Krishna properly, nicely, and continue your devotion to Krishna uninterruptedly. That is the point. Krishna says, Gacchantya mudha padam avyayam tat. One nice word Krishna uses, amudha. Mudha means person who is bewildered or one who is confused. Amudha means one who is not bewildered or one who is intelligent. Such a person who is unbewildered, who is intelligent, can proceed on the path of perfection or path of liberation and reach the supreme abode. To summarize, in this verse 5, Krishna is giving us this surrendering process. 5 steps, he says, 5 important things we have to follow. First step is that we have to become free from pride or develop the quality of humility, understanding that I am insignificant. My situation is that of, very infinitesimal, right? So we have to understand this and accordingly function. Because this whole problem in the material world, I'm too proud of what I'm having. I know that, I know this, I'm so rich, I'm so capable, I can do that, I can do this. Always our mind is filled with these things. And secondly, Krishna says, this pride is making you in an illusory situation wherein you think that you are controlling things. And you think that the land of this on which you are living, it is mine, and the different things I'm controlling. Like this, false notions you are developing in the way of conducting yourself in the material world. So this illusion you have to come out of, right? So we have to become freed from such false notions and false associations. And thirdly, Krishna says we have to give up such fake associations, right? Pridelessness, free from illusion, free from false associations, jita sangha dosha. Fourthly, Krishna says, cultivate knowledge, adhyatma nitya. By this, what happens? 5th point, you become free from all the different drives, kama, krodha, lobha. You become free from duality. You become situated in transcendence. This is going to take us to the path of liberation. Okay, so I will end the discussion here. There are a few questions which all of you have asked. I take up the questions. First question is, Bhumika ji has asked, Prabhuji, how to live with people who are always in pride? It gets very difficult to handle situations at times. Fine. Good question, Bhumika ji. Yes, people ask, we are surrounded by people who are living in the concept of pride. This is how the whole world is. Everybody is proud of his own possessions, own skills, own intelligence. Right? But as a practitioner of Krishna consciousness, we have to see that we maintain our spiritual position, that I am part and parcel of Krishna. This knowledge is important for us. See, a person is acting out of pride because he's unaware of his actual situation. Whereas a person in Krishna consciousness, externally he may look like he is one among them. But internally, His consciousness is what? I am servant of Krishna. I am devotee of Krishna. I want to behave in this way. So whatever situation it is, externally, a devotee always internally has his firm understanding, firm knowledge that I am servant of Krishna. I'm a devotee of Krishna. This consciousness is prominent in his internal atmosphere. So you may be in the midst of many people who are always having the situation of the whole atmosphere of pride, envy, anger. Right? Not only pride, so many other aspects of, as Krishna mentions, kama, krodha, all over. We are surrounded by people like this. Nevertheless, you try to follow as much as possible what Krishna instructions are there in Bhagavad Gita with regard to following a life of, the way Krishna says, even though people are envious about you, you don't become envious. Right? Like we have our own examples of our Srila Prabhupada's example. Right? See, anybody who came in touch with Prabhupada, even though he was having pride, even though he was, other person had so much of envy, anger and everything, but the behavior of Prabhupada, the way Prabhupada was conducting himself, that impressed upon the other person so much that he also started understanding, oh, this person is not having any pride. Prabhupada is not having any pride. Prabhupada doesn't. So even though you may be surrounded by people who are having pride and they are, you feel it is very difficult, but you conduct yourself in a way that what Krishna is telling us to maintain ourselves as a devotee. Pridelessness. Other person may express pride, but you don't express pride. You be in your situation of what is appropriate in the situation with regard to as a duty, what you're supposed to do, you do, and don't express pride. It is always possible from you. Because what happens is, out of ignorance, in the material world, everybody is conducting himself on the platform of pride, on the platform of arrogance, on the platform of anger. Everybody is conducting himself in that way. See, you conducting yourself on the platform of pridelessness, nobody can stop you. Other person can become angry on you. You don't express anger. Right? So it is very much possible from your side. Which means you have to culture this. It is not easy. Because generally what happens, in a regular way of interaction with other people, we become so impulsive and we react to every situation the way other person is trying to respond to us, all right, trying to interact with us. He becomes angry, you also become angry. He becomes angry, you answer in a very cool way, in a very equilibrium way. It is very much possible for you. So this requires contemplation on the subject of Bhagavad Gita from your side for quite some time, so that you make the instructions of Bhagavad Gita your way of thinking and you start acting in that way. That's the point. So the only solution which Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita to how to live with people who are always in the pride, which means you're telling that we are in the midst of people who are completely under different modes. Right? That's what we understood now. In 14th chapter, the behavior of a person who is above the modes. So we are supposed to practice them. We are supposed to gradually cultivate them. That's the whole point. Right? The very first behavioral symptom, what did we understand in 14th chapter, verse 22 to 25? Krishna said, he is not affected by honor, dishonor. Because when you're dealing with people of pride, they always want to disrespect you, dishonor you, and you feel humiliated. Whereas a person who is practicing Krishna consciousness, he should be beyond honor, dishonor, because he knows I'm not the body, I'm spirit soul. Yes, this is not easy I'm simply telling this. It may look like it is so easily I'm telling, but this is what you're supposed to practice. You don't take these things very deep within you. You just say, it's incidental. In Krishna's will, maybe I'm supposed to get like this. So it is a practice. So which means our chanting of Hare Krishna, our practice of devotion every day will make you develop these qualities. Being unaffected by honor, dishonor. Accepting things only for favorable for execution of Krishna consciousness. Taking everybody as friend. See, all the 6 behaviors, what we discussed in 14th chapter, verse 22, 22, 25, please remember them. All of them you have to start, contemplating on them and trying to see how best I can practice them. See, the Bhagavad Gita's instructions are not simply to understand theoretically, rather we are supposed to apply them as much as possible. Right? So this is the point. So let us try to follow them, just like Krishna further says, being equally disposed to everyone and everything, at every situation. You're not disturbed by temporary upheavals and disturbances. Right? You're telling that difficulties will be there, handling with people of pride. Yes, this is part of the world, how world is, because people are all under different modes of nature. But you maintain your situation of Krishna conscious understanding, and you try to conduct yourself the way Krishna wants us to conduct as a devotee, as much as possible, as closely as possible. So it's a great opportunity for you to practically apply the principles of Bhagavad Gita in your practical life. That's the point. So this is what I can right now tell you, that let us practice the principles of Gita slowly, gradually, as much as possible. Right. So in the association of people who are all very proud and who are trying to bring you down in your situation, you don't get affected by that. Basically, it is that you get affected by that. Oh, he's insulting me, he's dishonoring me, he's looking down upon me. That's what we always feel. Okay, so these are all things which we need to practice in our practical spiritual life. So I'll go to the next question. Anuraji is asking this question. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, is Vairagya and detachment same? I had the impression that Vairagya is used for people who leave household seeking God. Good question. Yes, Vairagya basically means renunciation. What is renunciation? What are you renouncing? You're renouncing the spirit of enjoyment. Krishna will explain this very nicely in the 18th chapter. In fact, the whole chapter is titled The Perfection of Renunciation. The very question of Arjuna will be very nicely. Arjuna asks, what is sannyasa? What is tyaga? Right? Then Krishna explains all these things very nicely. So basically, Vairagya means renunciation, which means renouncing the spirit of enjoyment. Now, the material world is for my sense gratification. Material world is for my satisfaction of my various propensities. This is called attachment. So when you're detached, when you're renouncing the spirit of enjoyment, independent enjoyment, and which is going to entangle you, this is called Vairagya. Yes, Vairagya is again a situation in our spiritual life wherein we need to practice this aspect of becoming completely aloof from material things. Vairagya is other way also known as detachment. Yes, this point what you noted is very good. And detachment, Vairagya, renunciation, all these are almost synonymous, right? Vairagi as such means a person who has left everything in the Vedic terms, that he has renounced his household duties and taken up life of mendicant. That is one more aspect of word Vairagi, Vairagya, Vairagi. Whereas in the modern context, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended that you can remain in your household life, but you can practice the life of Vairagi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's recommendation is you practice Krishna consciousness, chant Hare Krishna, then read Bhagavad Gita and practice the life of devotion so nicely that it will automatically put you in the mood of Vairagya, or the mood of detachment, or the mood of complete renunciation from the material world, because you're not feeling attached the way other people are attached and going on in the material world. You're practicing Krishna consciousness in your home in such a way that you are having the mood of complete detachment from those things. And you're practicing in such a way that these are all incidental, and I'm taking the help of these things so that I'm trying to make my other family members also Krishna conscious, and I am also preparing myself to go back to God. That is the whole understanding. Right? So, these words, Tyaga, Vairagya, Sannyasa, all these things are almost synonymous in one sense. Okay, but there are fine differences, Sanskrit words, but generally it means that we have to become detached from the material world and become attached to Krishna. See, one more thing, as we understand in third chapter and other chapters, previous chapters, simply taking a dress of a Vairagi or a detached person or a renunciant is not enough. We have to really conduct ourselves in that status. That is important. You may show off as though you're a Vairagi taking the dress of a renunciant, but if you are not actually renounced the spirit of enjoyment, Krishna says in third chapter, 6th verse, you are a pretender. You are a mithyachari. So we don't want false people or false yogis or false devotees in the dress of pretenders. We want really genuine people who are, even though they may be householders, even though they may be busy in so many other duties of their worldly understanding, but heart of heart, they want to perform devotion to Krishna. That is important. Okay, I hope this has answered your question. Next question is from Rimaji. How can we perform our duties towards our parents, children, and spouse and still remain detached? Yes, again, a very good question. So Krishna explains this in different parts of Bhagavad Gita, especially 18th chapter, very clearly, nicely explains. So we have to understand that our different family members, our parents, our relatives, our children, our spouse, and everybody are all Krishna given to us. Or rather, I am situated in a situation, I am placed in a situation wherein I have been, by the will of providence, I am in a particular situation. And we have to understand all of them are actually Krishna's part and parcels. Right? If you remember, one verse in 9th chapter, Prabhupada explains this concept very nicely. It is verse number 17 of 9th chapter. Very nicely Prabhupada explains. Krishna says, Pitaham asya jagato mata dhata pitamaha. Krishna says, I am the father, I am the mother, I am the support, I am the grandsire. And Prabhupada explains very nicely. In the material world, we have different relationships with different living entities, but all of them are who? What are they? All of them are nothing but Krishna's energy only. They are Krishna's part and parcels. But under the creation of material nature, Prakriti, some of them appear as our father, some of them appear as our mother, some of them appear as our grandfather, our children, etc., etc. But all said and done, finally, all of them are part and parcel of Krishna. Right? So, the living entities who are appearing as our parents, as our children, as our spouse, finally, are all Krishna's energy only. So, in that way, all of them being part and parcel of Krishna, they are also in one sense Krishna only. See from that perspective, I am placed in a particular situation of different living entities as my different as my different relatives, as parents, children, or spouse, by Krishna's will only. You did not choose this, right? You have been placed in a particular situation. But if you consider that this is everything for me, not understanding Krishna's role here and Krishna's arrangement here, that is ignorance, that is illusion. So when you understand they are all part and parcel of Krishna, I am also placed in a particular situation as a wife of somebody, as a daughter of somebody, as a mother of somebody, then that will make your understanding of Krishna consciousness very clear. And in that consciousness, you start performing bhakti and trying to impress upon other members of your family in this life to again take up Krishna consciousness as much as possible. Right? If you influence them, impact upon them, that is a life of detachment. But If they take up or not take up, because every living entity has a choice, has a free will, but you do it seriously as much as possible. Nobody is going to stop you from chanting Hare Krishna 16 rounds. Nobody is going to stop you from Bhagavad Gita reading every day 1 hour. These things can go on. See, there is no limit to your spiritual advancement. How much you want to become serious, sincere in your practice of devotion, nobody can stop it. Right? Anything can stop is only you. That's why Bhakti, it is said, Ahaituki apratihata savai pumsam ito bhakti adokshaje. Right? Bhakti is such that it is so transcendental. It is ahaituki, it is causeless. And nothing external can stop you unless and until you decide, I don't want to do bhakti. So, your practice of bhakti will be to have proper understanding of the different family members are all part and parcel of Krishna. My situation in the family is will of providence, Lord Krishna's desire. I'm placed like this. I'm fortunate that I'm able to come in contact with, with devotees of Lord Krishna. Okay, so like this we can go on with our understanding. So we will close now. Anything is required, we can again have an interaction on the WhatsApp and continue our discussion. So thank you very much for everybody for joining this session.